Something that comes up a lot in discussion for me with candidates of mine is the topic of moving from quite a big organization to a much smaller one. Now, often this will be very attractive to candidates for a variety of reasons. It can be, and it's probably quite a reasonable assumption, that smaller companies are a lot more agile. They can be a lot more fun. They can often be sort of quite new and in their early infancy, and that can be a very exciting proposition for people. So there can be this great desire to shift from a big company that maybe, kind of caricatured way can be portrayed as being, very bureaucratic and hierarchical and slow to maneuver, towards something that's kind of fast and agile and new and funky and all those slightly cheesy cliches. And it can be very attractive for candidates, and it can be a really smart move, incidentally. But one of the things that tends to matter to the employer, the next company, perhaps the small, funky, agile, going places startup company, is from their point of view, there's a slight area of concern potentially with a candidate that's coming from a big company background. Because the reality, of course, is that big companies do, in many ways, might make life quite a lot easier for people. You do have lots of infrastructure, you do have lots of support. You may well have a very strong market position with, years or perhaps decades of market legacy to tap into. And these are all things that we often take for granted once we're at a big company. They just sort of filter away. We forget about the pluses, and we often do focus on the negatives. But one of the issues, of course, that's a concern sometimes for companies that are smaller when they assess people from big company backgrounds is he or she going to struggle without the trappings of big company life, without that sort of cushioning or that safety net that is perceived to be there when you work for, a Macquarie Bank or a News Corp or a Google, these big entities. So if you're a candidate that's looking to make that transition from large to small, you've got to think about how you're going to satisfy the potential employer that you are going to be okay without the big company trappings. So think about maybe examples that you can tap into either from your career before where you have worked for smaller companies. They will be important to highlight so they don't see you as someone who's just worked in big company land. Or if you have only worked in big companies, then try and find the instances where maybe you haven't necessarily had the kind of support and infrastructure that other people might expect you to have. Maybe it was a bit threadbare in places, or maybe it was all a bit helter-skelter, and so actually it wasn't quite the entity that people perceive it to be. You've got to think seriously about what examples you can use, and it's not always that easy. Sometimes you're going to have to kind of manipulate something a little bit to kind of get it to fit. But it is very important because small companies will have been burnt in the past, unquestionably, in hiring people from big companies who made all the right noises about, I'm really excited to change from large to small because, and then got there and went, oh my God, this is very different. This is much harder. I don't have the trimmings and the trappings and the support I'm used to. So think about it from their point of view, not just why you want to do it, but think about how you can show that smaller company that you are not a risk just because you are from big company land. Give that some good thought. It's a difficult area. If you get it right, you can get to make that dream move. So good luck.